Welcome to Yes Genius, a podcast from Epic Marketing that celebrates the power of affirmative thinking. In each episode, we explore the power of saying yes to unexpected opportunities, career changes, even the unknown, and the powerful results. This season, we welcome our speakers and panelists from Social Media Day Delaware. We hope you enjoy their yes stories and some digital marketing insights.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host for this episode, Jess Burton. Joining me is Nate Weaver, a seasoned social media strategist with a proven track record in driving digital growth and a panelist for Social Media Day Delaware 2024. He's worked in promotions and content marketing and served as an on-air radio personality. In his current role at Avkin, a medical technology company, Nate has significantly amplified the company's online presence through strategic SEO, content marketing, and diverse media production. Welcome, Nate.
Hi.
I am very excited to have you here and kind of learn a little bit more about you and what you do.
I'm excited to be here. This is going to be great.
Absolutely. So I'm going to jump right into it because I like keeping these episodes short, sweet, and jammed packed full of information.
All right, let's do it.
You're currently working as a marketing professional and a content creator, but your career started in radio.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share a time or the time when you were faced with a significant challenge and how saying yes to a new approach or opportunity helped you overcome it?
Yeah. So the significant challenge, just to start it off, was getting into college. Okay, that was the goal. It was my junior year at high school in Central Pennsylvania, Central Dauphin High School. If anybody's a Ram, go Rams. I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do senior year. There were a couple of different options. I could go and take, honors or AP classes. I could take a bunch of study halls, or my school did give us an option for a co-op. So I started exploring the co-op opportunities. There wasn't a lot in the digital or content sphere at that point. But I did run into a guy who was like, hey, I work at a radio station right now. I go in every morning, from like 5 to 9. I don't have to take 4 classes. It's pretty great. All this stuff. The people are amazing. And I was just like, interesting. Okay. At that point, I kind of was thinking more TV was going to be the route for me. But I was like, you know what? As long as it's some sort of content, I'm getting professional mentorship. It's like, okay, let's see how this is. So I end up going in, doing a quick interview with them, which was basically just sitting in the studio, and they wanted to see, in all honesty, kind of how I vibed with the whole entire group. I wasn't on air. They didn't run me through any sort of training. It was just literally sit there. They'd talk to me in between breaks. We'd laugh. I'd listen to the show. And then at the end, they were just like, yeah, you seem great. As long as you keep all your grades up and everything else, like you can 100% start in August. And this was January. So I had about 7 months to sit on it, but that was my actual yes moment that led to, I'll be honest, a lot of other yes moments that were kind of surprising. So at that moment, I didn't realize that my whole entire world was going to be connected for the next 10 years. Okay. And it's not specifically by the two people that I worked with. Their names are Nancy and Newman. They're still on in Central PA. They're now on a Froggy station. But they are the first morning show that I started with. I loved being there. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I would come early. I would stay late. I would go to all the late night shows just to get the experience and meet country artists. I wasn't even into country music at the time. But the environment, all the people, the music, it was so much fun that I fell in love. And that's exactly where I, started my actual career journey. At that point, it was still a hobby. But, after I was done with that internship, it was what I wanted to do. So my sights were set, right? So the next year, I end up applying to Temple, getting into Temple. Okay, Philadelphia is where I'm going to spend my first year of college, at least. I spent 4 years there. Thankfully, it was a great experience. But once I knew I was coming to Philadelphia, I started doing some research. Okay, who are the radio stations in Philadelphia? Who are the country stations in Philadelphia? I found WXTU. And then a couple of years later, I was sitting there trying to find some sort of contact for XTU because my goal in general was to be part of the morning show with WXTU before I graduated college in one way or another. So I started sending out emails, all this kind of stuff, trying to find internships. Unfortunately, they never got back to me. That company at the time was a CBS. They never got back to me. So I ended up going for my quote unquote second choice. But it was also a yes moment because one of my friends at school said, "Hey, I'm an intern right now. I'm leaving. I'm graduating and they need an intern for next fall. Would you be interested?" I said, "Yeah, whatever. Sure. Tell me about the show." And come to find out that this is the John DeBella show, Radio Hall of Famer, one of the biggest names in Philadelphia history. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't even know who this guy is because I'm from Harrisburg. I had no idea who he was. I started reading all of these stories about him versus Howard Stern back in the day. I started getting into all of the crazy events that he threw in like Rittenhouse Square in the middle of the 80s. The fact that he was on the front of Rolling Stone magazine. So I started, fangirling a little bit for sure. This was a big break. So that was another yes moment. So we come from my first yes moment back in Harrisburg to my second yes moment with John DeBella. And that's where I met my wife. Crazy enough, in John DeBella's studio, she was another intern. We didn't date for another 4 years, but it was a really cool time. So from there, right after that, I sat down with the general manager after my internship at John DeBella ended. And I started telling him I want to get into country music. That was really my shtick. I'd been hosting a show at Temple for 4 years. I'm trying to get in that mix, get interviews, all that kind of stuff. And he goes, "Well, hold on a second. I used to work with this woman, Shelly Easton. She works over at WXTU. You should reach out to her." I was like, "I have." And he goes, "Hold on a second. I don't know why he did this. He was the competition, but he sat down and he wrote an email to Shelly suggesting that she talk to me," which was the nicest thing I think I've ever had a boss do for me in my life, which was great. Come to find that specifically this woman, Shelly Easton, was the woman who put together my first morning show that I worked with in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 15 years before I even moved to Philadelphia to be in the same city as her. She was basically the original reason I even had an opportunity in radio because she put these two people together. So my big thing was I needed to get into country music at that point. My choice was to go down to CRS, have another yes moment, and volunteer for the CRS conference down in Nashville. I had to pay my own way down, just travel, but then they paid for me to stay in the hotel and everything. But I was the only person that I knew there, and I had to share a bed with another random dude from Kentucky. That was like, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was the whole kind of trade-off there. But I did get to go to the whole entire conference. I made amazing contacts. And funny enough, as I was coming down the escalator in the airport from Philly to Nashville, two people behind me on the escalator is none other than Shelly Easton. So I get to the bottom of the escalator and I was like, oh, here it is. It's literally what my teachers have been telling me, the elevator pitch moment. And I went up to her and I said, "Shelly, I'm not sure if you even know who I am, but my name's Nate Weaver. I had to come over here and introduce myself. I really love XTU. I love the work that you do. I would really love to just sit down and pick your brain. Nothing crazy. Right now I work, with John DeBella." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, have you ever reached out to me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I actually have. But I haven't heard anything back." She goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We'll get this figured out. Here's my card, blah, 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 everything else." I'm like, "Okay, great." I met her. That's all I needed. I needed the contact. Okay. Later that night at the first gathering of the conference, we had a happy hour of some sort. I was hanging out with my old morning show, Nancy and Newman, down at the bar. And Shelly walks in, makes a beeline in a group of like 200 people straight for me and said, "Hey, I really like the stuff that you're doing. I think we'll have a position for you. Call me when you get back to Philadelphia." Wow. Yeah. So I did that. I got back to Philly. I gave her a call. Within a month, I was working for her over at Odyssey with the street team. 6 months later, she moved me into an office job doing web content and social media. From there, I started picking her brain about on-air and programming, and she ended up moving me to be the morning show producer at Philly's B101.1 my last semester of college. So I kind of got my dream. I worked for Shelly Easton, who ran XTU, and she was the one that built that whole entire station. She built the morning show that I worked with first in Harrisburg, and then she gave me my first full-time job with a morning show in Philadelphia, which was an absolute dream come true. And to this day, I don't even talk to Shelly that much anymore. She's now down in South Carolina after the COVID layoffs and everything, but she's still one of those most impactful people I have ever had in my life. And just the string of events when it started to unfold over the years just kind of had my mind going in circles. So there's my yes moment, all the way back in high school.
Well, it sounds like your yes moment is wrapped up is kind of a series of yes moments. You talk about saying yes to your your co-op, and it led you all the way through to your job, which I think is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned a lot of people. You mentioned Don DeBella, Shelly,
Yeah.
your wife, the people that have kind of helped you along the way.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that you've made a lot of important, impactful connections. How has that kind of shaped your approach to networking? And do you try and pay it forward?
All the time. That is one of the things I loved about, especially the radio industry in general. They all had each other's backs. It is a very, especially now, I feel like it's even a little bit more cutthroat because there's so many less jobs out there for on-air personalities. I mean, for the most part, when you go into radio, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I want to be on air," and then they move into different areas of the industry. So, like I said, it's still kind of cutthroat. Going about like networking and everything, I kind of just take an approach of I am who I am. I'm going to come up. I'll tell you exactly what I do if you want to know about it, all that kind of stuff. But if we vibe, we vibe. I'm never going to shake somebody's hand, talk to them for a couple of minutes and think, I'll never work with him ever again or anything like that. I always try and, sit there, especially with networking, pick the person's brain and try and figure out where they could fit into your project, into your life, into your business, any scheme that you have going on in terms of business. If they can fit into it, that's the key that I always try and look for, and always just kind of keep it cordial, and make sure to I always try and keep reaching out, whether it be via social media, just commenting on a job update, liking a post, anything like that. Just keeping up to date with people is the best way to keep on top of people's minds, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's that authenticity. It's being genuinely interested in them for what they have so that you guys can kind of build a relationship. So I have one more question specifically about radio, and we're going to take it back to the beginning.
Go for it.
What was there something that just sparked your interest in getting into radio? Obviously, you're not in radio anymore, even though you do have a great voice. I feel like there's missed opportunities there. But you definitely have a voice for radio.
Thank you. I'm glad you didn't say a face for radio. That was very polite of you. Thank you. I usually get that one.
My dad tells all of my siblings and I that all the time. I'm like, excuse me. But back when you were 14, 15, 16, what about radio was really like, oh, I got to do
that? Well, radio in general, it was the community that really kind of got me. It was the first time I felt like I could go into a job, especially at 5 o'clock in the morning, and be excited about it. Every morning was different. Every morning you were talking to new people. Every morning you were trying to figure out a different way to tell a story or to brighten somebody's day. Twice a year you probably had huge radiothons that gave back to St. Jude, to CHOP in Philadelphia. The amount of radiothons that I have done for CHOP in St. Jude throughout my 7 years, I think I did like 14 of these bad boys, and they were all day long events, but they were so rewarding. Even the artists that were coming around doing their radio tours, you think, oh, they're on a record label, they're signed, they're a big deal. They are coming in just trying to pitch their music. And it's one of the coolest things to see somebody that is so into their art and so motivated that they want to come in and talk to the world about their art, play a little bit for them for virtually, like, we radio stations don't pay them to come in. Not usually. Maybe the big ones every once in a while, but the ones that are going on radio tour trying to promote their first ever album, they're not getting paid to go there. They're just going over there to really spread their music, try and meet some of the people that are in the area so they can get a face to face. The personality behind it, the community behind it, the whole entire industry is just so in depth and so motivating that it just kept me around so long. And in all honesty, like, I'm not really, you said I'm out of it. I am out of it, kind of. Always talk to all of my radio friends. My wife currently is working for a radio station in Philadelphia still. I still have the connections there. We just were honored to be at John DeBella's going away party because he just moved out of the city. So, like, I'm still trying to keep my foot, kind of in the door, because I do voiceover work and everything else too. But yeah, it was really just the community, the people, the way that the shows were put together and worked and flowed, and the excitement that you had at the events, the concerts, the radiothons, everybody high-fiving and congratulating each other on a job well done. It was just such a big teamwork community. Yeah, it's something I don't know another industry that it's like that. I've never heard of another industry that it's like that. So, and if anybody can tell me one, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to look into it. That'd be great. But for right now, yeah, radio, it was bar none.
Yeah, it sounds like the radio industry is very close knit. It's very everybody kind of looks out for each other.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about radio.
Mm-hmm.
I could talk for hours about radio because I think it's fascinating. You're now in more of a content marketing, digital marketing role at Avkin. Avkin itself is a very interesting company. So can you kind of give us a good look at how you took your radio skills and applied them to healthcare marketing, essentially?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. When I went through my interview with Avkin, I sat down and they asked for a portfolio of all of my work. So I kind of sat down and I showed them, hey, these are the biggest things that I've done in the past, 3 years in radio. Here's the TikTok account I took to 10,000 followers within 5 months. Here's the Instagram account that I doubled in following right before our biggest, marketing event of the year for Christmas at B101. Here's, and I just showed them a bunch of numbers and they were like, wait a second, you're like reaching all these people. How are you doing it? I was like, well, it's really just kind of, it's more casual. You have to ask people things. You have to reach out. You have to be conversational, all that kind of stuff. And it was one of those things where I came in and they weren't really expecting anything that was, big. They were like, look, I know we're talking about how B101 had 1 million listeners over Christmas. Cool. Great. Our numbers that we're trying to find are like 300 people to see a social media post. Okay, I think I can do that. That's great. So I started making it conversational. I started taking some of the questions that I used to do for morning show, like the bits that they would do. What would your walk-up song be if you had one? Running late for work, what was your reason? That kind of stuff. And just taking the format of those and trying to turn them into something that was simulationist focused. So my first one was, you're a simulationist when ... I wanted to get some responses. Within about 2 days, we had about 100 responses coming from the community. And it was one of the biggest things that I saw with inside Avkin in the simulation sphere that mimicked radio. These people are also very tight knit. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody pushes each other. They want to make sure that they're doing better because this isn't about advertising. It's not about ratings, anything like that. It's about lives. It's about people being, literally getting the best care possible. We're acting. The whole idea behind Avkin is we make wearable simulators to put on actors so that they can react in real time when nursing students are practicing these procedures, like sticking an IV in your arm. Obviously painful, but a mannequin's not really going to jump up and, be scared when you poke into him, but a real person might, especially if they know exactly when that needle is going in. So we have haptic feedback in our devices that literally when you pierce the skin, it sends a shock, like a little vibration up your arm, and you know exactly when to react. This is a situation where when we came up with these products, or my CEO did, I should say, back in 2017 at the University of Delaware, she needed something that was just a little bit more than what she had. So the story of how she came to be, or how she came to make her first ever wearable, was she was going through a simulation with a couple of students. It was just supposed to be a quick suction of a trach, get some mucus out of the tracheostomy patient's throat. It's gross, I know, but it's supposed to be a simple procedure. They were learning it for the first time. They had gone through how to do it and everything else. So the student went up and said, "Hi, my name is blah. Can I confirm your name and date of birth?" Well, the mannequin didn't say anything because a tracheostomy patient is nonverbal. They don't talk, but a mannequin also doesn't move. So it was just laying there. So this man thought that it had coded. So he called a code and started doing compressions on the mannequin when it was just supposed to be a simple tracheostomy suction. So what she ended up doing was going and putting everything together, the fluidics, the technology, everything into one device to be worn on a person so that she could have better training. This wasn't her being competitive in the market. This was her trying to just make what she found, like the problems that she found, make them better for the whole entire industry. She went around and tried to sell some of the patents to our products. Nobody ever bought them. So she said, I'm going to go and just make my own company because this is what simulationists do. If I think that it is a better form of simulation, if this is going to create better outcomes, then the whole entire simulation community needs to know about that for the good of, humanity for the most part, compared to, radio. Like I said, that was more about advertising, commercials, all that kind of stuff. So there was more of a competition based on what the actual product was. In radio, here it's more about making sure everybody is safe, that healthcare is progressing, that the way that we are taking care of our patients is exponentially getting better year after year. Just the biggest difference is really how the competition is laid out,
Absolutely. It seems like you've managed to align yourself with organizations that are very much about giving back and doing what's best for the group as a whole, not necessarily an individual.
Mm-hmm.
You see, which is amazing, because I feel like when people feel passionate about the place they work, it makes work seem like less work.
Yes.
So one of my final questions would be, how does your appreciation for the company's mission and all of that play into your ability to kind of be a one-man marketing team?
I love the story of the company. That's the biggest, I think that's the biggest thing. As soon as I started doing my research, in all honesty, when I applied for this job, it was a LinkedIn easy apply. I was annoyed at my job the one day. I just clicked a couple of buttons. It went through. Cool. Didn't think twice about it. Okay. Then I got the email back like, "Hey, we want to do an interview." I was like, "Okay, great." So I started doing all the background research. Well, my CEO's story was so compelling to me that I sat there and I was like, if somebody doesn't tell this story, then this might fall flat on its face. It was blaring that they had this piece of content that was so native, so well put together, basically already, that had not been shared. So going from the whole how she had to create the wearable and because of the lack of whatever she thought the simulation had originally. Well, she took the tracheostomy one, and she started, you're right, developing them into more. I think we have 9 products now, and our biggest one currently, the one that our flagship product now, I should say, but it's also our newest product. It just got released 5 months before I started here. It's called the AvBirth. It's the world's only fully automated wearable birthing simulator. Okay. So we're going around showing people this as I mean, we have people coming up to us saying it's the most realistic thing that they've ever seen in terms of labor and delivery simulation. The fact that she was able to do this with what? A couple of college kids, basically. She went to the engineering department at the University of Delaware and said, hey, I need some engineers to help me do this. And they ended up making it one of their senior projects or something like that to kind of come up with the prototype and everything. But she straight up, funny enough, this is a yes moment by those students. She said, I need to put all of this electronics and these fluids together into one machine. And they're like, no, that doesn't work. Like electronics, liquid, no, absolutely not. She goes, figure it out. And they said yes. And then we spawned this company. I mean, from there, our two co-founders are straight out of the University of Delaware. They worked together in simulation. They each saw the problems in it. They each found that they needed to find better answers. So they moved forward. They went and tried to patent all these designs. They went and tried to sell them to the large companies. The large companies said no. One of the consultant then later told them that, look, these big companies, even if they do buy it, they're going to sit the patent on a shelf because they have spent too much money in their products to just completely turn face and go to another product that isn't what they've been developing for the last 25 years. So she literally looked in Amy, they looked into each other's eyes. I swear, those are my co-founders, Amy and Amy. They looked into each other's eyes and said, look, we're going to do this. We're going to build this business. And 2017, Avkin was born. And from there, they just built their way up. Like, we are growing. It is exciting. And people are starting to see that this is very important. And the story behind it is just so inspiring that I see it making a difference to people in simulation, because we will have people come reach out to us saying, this is one of the most amazing things we have seen in this industry. Like the step from, static mannequins to the realism of human beings. And I just felt like I needed to get in there and tell that story because it was just so motivational to me. It's something that I've always wanted to kind of do myself, find a problem, develop an answer, and then go from there and build a whole entire community around it, which is what we're doing here.
I think you nailed it. I think what a lot of people have forgotten over time is that marketing is very much storytelling. And when you have someone who's willing to tell someone else's story as passionately as you have, it makes it easy to love what you're doing and to love the product or the service that you're selling or that you're talking about. And I think when it comes, as someone who has taken her fair share of CPR classes on CPR dummies, I can only imagine how much more difficult that would be if you're trying to do like a more complex medical procedure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to move on to the next part of our podcast. It's the rapid fire section.
Okay.
So we're going to do this and that, and then I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. So with this and that, I give you two options, and you have to pick your favorite or the best of whichever. So you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So do you prefer paid or organic social media?
Organic.
Do you prefer TikTok or Instagram Reels?
TikTok.
Influencer marketing or traditional advertising?
For ROI now, influencer marketing.
Short form or long form content?
Oh, that's actually pretty hard. I think short form. I think short form is more of a bread and butter for me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
Snapchat or Pinterest?
Neither.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't have either.
Do you prefer viral trends or evergreen content?
I like evergreen content. Yeah, it's fun to bring that back around.
Yes, it's a good staple. I'm like, it's the meat and potatoes of marketing.
It really is. And in experience, every time we bring up the evergreen content, we always get a new story.
Yeah.
We always get a news story. There's always somebody who's like, oh my gosh, I can one up that. And it always makes me laugh.
All right. So rapid fire questions are a little bit different. I'm going to ask you a full question. You have to answer with the first thing that pops into your head.
Okay.
So if someone hopped into your car, what radio station would be on?
B101.
And can that person, I'm assuming they're sitting in the passenger seat, touch the dial?
If it's my wife. Yes,
She gets
absolutely.
passenger privileges. That seems fair.
100%. Yes.
What's the most interesting social media trend you've seen lately?
Most interesting social media trend that I've seen lately. The brat dance. The brat. Yeah, my wife's been doing that like crazy. She is big on. She's been doing that like crazy, and I'm just, what is it? Brat? Okay, go for it. Absolutely, yes, brat dance. Woo.
Mine would have to be all the ones, and only because I saw the one that oh my god, what's her name? It was like unfortunately I did not get sent to the Olympics, and it's like people take videos from their childhood doing like swimming or whatever and just absolutely like failing at it. And I could watch those all day. They're hilarious.
I did see those come up. I completely forgot about that one. That was right at the beginning of the Olympics. Those were funny. You're right.
Yeah. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Invisibility, and that would be so that I can just kind of always pull an Irish goodbye. Yeah, if I'm tired, I kind of just want to go home, you know. And I don't need to do the rounds. I'll text you guys later, you know, kind of thing. I'll just pull a nice Irish goodbye.
I have a friend who Irish goodbyes at her own parties. We'll be like, "Where'd she go?" And her like husband will be like, "Oh, she went to bed like 45 minutes ago." We're like, okay. We're so used to it by now, it doesn't even faze us. But yeah, she Irish goodbyes at her own parties.
That is a dream come true. That is
right?
A dream come true.
And the last one, if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why?
Rome. I've always wanted to go there. I took 6 years of Latin. Don't ask me why. I didn't do great on the writing SATs, but absolutely Rome.
So the last section of our podcast is Chatbot Says. So we like to use the chatbots, since they have now become part of, I think, most of our everyday existence, to help us come up with some kind of catchphrase that we could use for the title of your episode. So we have kind of put in your bio about the things about you, given your radio background and working in healthcare now, for it to come up with some names for you. And the reason we like this so much is that they are hands down something.
Okay. I'm excited for this.
So I will read off the top 4 and you can pick the one that you hate the least.
Okay. I love this. Okay, let's do this.
Okay. So we have DJ Nate the Great. Nate the Great with the beats that never hate. So
okay, yeah.
One. The second one, which may be my favorite for most corny, is Nate the Navigator. Lost in the music, let Nate the Navigator be your guide.
Okay, I'll take you right through the music. Let me tell you.
This next one I think would be funny if you like put it in your email signature tagline. Okay. Captain Content. I'm Captain Content, your commander of cool tunes.
That might have to be the one. Oh, that's so good. I love that. I'm putting that on a business card.
Right? And then the last one of our copywriters was like, I'm selecting this one because I just want to hear me say it. Captain Keyboard Cowboy. Yeehaw, partner. Let's ride the rhythm together.
Yeehaw! I love that. That is perfect. I love that. Yeah, we're going to go with the last one. I think I'd pick the last one.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll have to like put a little cowboy hat on you or something. But yeah, that one's a good one.
Absolutely. We can find a cowboy hat real quick.
So I wanted to thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing your story. I want to thank you for agreeing to be a panelist at Social Media Day Delaware 2024. If people would like to connect with you for Avkin purposes or for voiceover purposes or for Nate just seems like a really cool guy purposes, where can they find you?
Yeah, so for Avkin purposes, you can reach out to me at nathanw@avkin.com. For any media, voiceover, content creation, podcast consulting, anything like that, you can reach out to me at nateweavermedia@gmail.com. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn, and then on Twitter and TikTok under Nate Weaver Radio.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you in October.
I can't wait. It's going to be an exciting time.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Yes Genius, a podcast from Epic Marketing. Join us again to hear more unique stories. In the meantime, find us on social media or online at epicmc2.com. You can also connect with Delaware's digital community at socialmediadayde.com. Don't miss out. Remember to follow or subscribe wherever you get your genius content.